Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Deal with Danny Brown. Today's guest is a legend in the legal business. Bruce Smiley, the founder of Freeman and Smiley. He's an elite real estate attorney, business attorney, a consigliere for many institutions, family offices, does a lot of incredible work, a wonderful, wonderful, warm guy. You can always find Bruce at Freeman and Smiley. Their website is ffslaw.com. And you can always find us at The Deal Pod on Instagram. You can also find me on my personal Instagram at Danny Brown. What am I? At Danny Brown LA. That's me, man. So thanks, guys. We appreciate you listening. And hopefully you'll get some wisdom and some nuggets out of this talk with Bruce. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Danny Brown with The Deal. Today I have a special guest, Bruce Smiley. Welcome to The Deal, Bruce. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm on the edge of my chair because I can't wait to get into some stories with you. But for those that don't know, you are founder of Freeman Smiley. You've been an attorney for 35 plus years, power attorney at an elite level. You're a real estate attorney, but your firm does everything. It's a fully integrated law firm. So why don't we just start with your law firm, what it looks like today, what it consists of, and then take us back to how you started it, when it started, and what did it look like in the beginning? Because I imagine there's been some progression and evolution.
Well, the firm started in 1976. The firm is called was and is called today Freeman and Smiley. Doug and Rick Freeman are brothers. They worked with me in a firm called Mazzaro, Schneider, Forer, and Lawrence. I had the fortune of working with Art Mazzaro, who was one of the preeminent real estate attorneys in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And our firm came to be is that Doug and Rick, who are 4 or 5 years older than myself, decided to leave the firm and were begging me to join them. I had practiced for a whopping 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And my comment to them was, I don't even know what I don't know yet. I think it's too early for me to leave, and I just need some time. So they started Freeman and kept bugging me to join them. As the story goes, they would have called me in their cell phone to invite me to come over when they were driving there, but we didn't have cell phones yet.
Right. So now, was this is in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it was in Los Angeles. We were in Beverly Hills at the time, and they opened their first office at 9911 West Pico.
Woo, Pico.
So the two of them were there. They were there for a year. They kept hounding me to join them. Finally, they were retained by Conroy's Flowers, which was a very significant florist for many years in Southern California with a great deal of real estate work. And they just begged me to join them. So then we started the negotiation. And I've now had practiced for about 2 3/4 years. And they wanted me to join and become a part of Freeman. And what's the salary? What's the name of the firm? Well, just come and join us as it is, and we'll figure it out. And I said, no, I wasn't going to do that. And given the style that I have, I'm a pretty ethical person. I decided I had to tell Art Mazzaro that I'd been asked to join this firm and that I was giving serious thought to it. And I remember to this day, as I told Art, he lost control of his pen. It just fell out of his hand when I told him what I was planning to do. I was very close to him, and he had a future. I had a future in that firm if I wanted to stay there. This whole dialogue gave me the ability to go back and negotiate with Rick and Doug. And one of the things I said is non-negotiable. I won't move unless the firm name changes immediately to Freeman and Smiley. And they looked at me like I was nuts. I'd been practicing for not yet 3 years. I said, those are the terms. I'm not doing that. And your salary cannot move till mine catches yours. And they agreed. They agreed to that. Firm name changed. It took about 3 weeks for there to be enough income for me to get a very sizable increase in salary, moving to a firm which was really kind of a startup firm. And there we were. And this was in 1977. So I am, I've been at this with a firm like this for 40 plus years. Same firm, same group of people. Doug and Rick have retired in the last few years, but we've been at this for quite some time.
So let me think about. You said 9900 block of Pico. Is that like where Factor's Deli is?
Now it's a couple blocks up from Factors.
It's
There's
like,
there used to be a restaurant on the corner. The building is it's an office building. So it's like a
yeah,
9-story office building.
but it's not what you'd think of as a power broker's location. It's not Century City or Beverly Hills,
No, no,
Wilshire.
we were anything but that.
So it starts with you joining them. They started, you joined them. So now, what does the firm look like today, and what does it cover? How many attorneys? How many employees?
Our goal was to build a firm slowly and carefully. We watched firms around us that were smaller than us, and they said, we will go to 10, we'll go to 20 attorneys, we're going to go to 30. They did, and no sooner they did that, they were out of business too. Our goal was we're going from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 4 to 6, and we just grew slowly and
Yeah,
carefully. And always had a tremendous eye of running a business. Notwithstanding we're a law firm, we have to run a business. Today there's 51, 52 attorneys. We're a full service firm with a huge estate planning practice. That's what Doug and Rick created. Today there's probably well over 15,000 estate planning files.
oh wow.
I mean, that's how large it is. And we do every aspect of estate planning. It started off as, just doing wills and trusts, and Doug realized there was a limitation to where he could go with that. So he advanced into foundation work, charitable giving, probate. We have a huge probate practice, and that was their side. And I have continued to grow and nurture the real estate side all these years. With my biggest opportunity early on, I was invited into the Sandy Sigaloff Wicks family during the Wicks bankruptcy of 1982 and 83. I was surrounded with the giant law firms and myself as lead real estate counsel for their work for 7 years, 7 years during the bankruptcy. So
Wow.
that was
That's
probably
pretty
my first
pretty
major, huge opportunity.
yeah, pretty big experience and learning factor. So eh, being both a founder of a law firm and practicing, how do you balance that, and how much time uh, is consumed with managing a business versus you just being a producer and dealing with your own clients and your own book of business?
Well, when we were younger, we were all managing, we were all practicing, we were all developing business, and it was quite a challenge. But as we grew, we started adding staff, support staff to take care of a lot of the day-to-day stuff. We created an executive management committee, which we were all rolling in and out of. And as time wore on, we found some really, really smart people who were part of our firm who could deal with the day-to-day management things that needed to be done. And they were left with that, allowing the three of us to spend less time in that and more time practicing and growing our practices.
Got it. Smart. So you delegated. Couldn't
Yeah,
do everything. So you
right.
in the beginning you wore all the hats and everyone did everything, but as it evolved and grew, you were able to get out in
Exactly.
front of it, delegate, and be able to focus on what you do, which is servicing your clients. So, what sort of clients can you tell us about that you work with? What are some of your typical clients or ones that you're allowed to share?
Well, we mentioned them. It's not a surprise. We represent today Travelers Insurance. We're doing all their West Coast real estate. We represent Unilever for years. We've done work for them throughout the United States, and we represent a huge company who doesn't want us to provide their name, but they're in Seattle and they're everywhere. And we're asked to do the most challenging projects for them throughout the country, which is quite an opportunity.
Yeah.
We do work for Callaway Golf. They just did a merger. We were involved with certain pieces of that. We represent HSBC doing their finance work on the West Coast. These are clients I've created over the years. And the fun part of this, the challenge of trying to develop these size clients, and I've always looked at myself as David in the world of Goliath. I'm competing with super, super large law firms with super talented people. And I've had to figure out how to get myself in the door and get opportunities with these clients. And it's been challenging. It's taken a lot of work, but it's also very fun to be able to develop that kind of work.
Yeah. So even at your level, I hear you saying that you feel like you're the underdog and you're going up against people and firms that are just massive. And even for you, you're looking for any angle to get in. You're not the biggest one on the block, so to speak.
Oh, by no means. And we have a feeling about how we do things. I don't think any firm could be more caring and sincere than us. That is an easy part of us, and we carry that forward to our clients. We really care about them, and both Doug, Rick, including myself, had the correct sensitivity to realize that to practice law, there's a lot more to it than just being a very bright, skillful attorney. We're dealing with people, we're dealing with companies, dealing with real situations where they're on the edge of their seat, oftentimes wondering what's going on. And if we don't have the sensitivity when we know something or have a sense of what's going on to call and reach out and tell them and share what's going on, we miss the whole point of what we're doing. So we're really good at that. I know that for sure.
All right, so I'm going to rewind a little bit. I wanted to let everyone at least hear about what's going on with you now, but let's take it back. Why don't we start from where you grew up and where you went to school? I can't remember if you were in LA, if you grew up in LA or not, but something led you to be this confident attorney 2 years out of law school, asking to have your name on the door and be a partner. So I'd be curious to know how you were raised, where you were raised, and can you speak to that a little bit?
I grew up in Minneapolis. I'm one of three children. My mother died when I was 4 years old, so I basically grew up without a mother. My father remarried when I was 9 or 10, but it was never the same as classic families where everything is cohesive and works perfectly. We went to public schools. No one paid any attention to us when we went to school like people do today. And I flourished because I was able to in schools that probably weren't as challenging as schools I could have attended at that time. There were city schools, public schools.
Yeah.
I think people in the school system paid attention to me, cared about me, realized my background, and would oftentimes expose me to opportunities that others weren't exposed to. I think I earned them and merited them, but like my counselor in high school insisted that I not go to the University of Minnesota. Most of my friends from high school don't even know we had a counselor, let alone having someone who was focusing with me all the time on what I was doing, where I was going. But she said, I'm not letting you go to the University of Minnesota. You need to get out of here. You need to flourish. You need to get away from your family environment and go somewhere else. So I had family in Los Angeles. I applied to UCLA. It seemed like an easy transition if I could get in. And I was fortunate enough. I got into UCLA, and it was not easy as an out-of-state student to get into UCLA at that time. This is in 1967, right at the height of Vietnam War. I leave the most careful, safe environment in Minneapolis, and I arrive on the campus of UCLA in 1967. And that is the day I took the flight out from Minneapolis is the day I got off the turnip truck. That's when I just started growing up very rapidly.
The hippies and the revolutionaries at UCLA.
Everywhere I turned, everything changed.
Just a little. I was just in Minneapolis about 2 weeks ago, and it was snowing. And I was my son went to camp, fall camp, so we were just. It was outside of Minneapolis and Wisconsin. So I was just
Yeah,
there. So that is quite a culture shock in a lot of ways,
right.
coming in the late '60s to UCLA. So tell me, what did your dad do? Was he a lawyer or?
No, my dad worked with my uncle. My uncle was one of the most prominent architects in Minneapolis. In fact, he's designed the major hospital in Minneapolis, is the Hennepin County General Hospital. It's a 4 or 5 block size hospital. He was a lead architect on that kind of project. That's the kind of things he did. My father worked with him in business development.
Got it.
And he helped find the work, develop the work for the firm.
Yeah. All right. So you make it to UCLA. It's quite a time. Those are the wooden years. Did you go to a lot of good games at the Poly
Well, it'd be
Pavilion?
easier to say, is there any game I missed? I can't
Right.
recall any. But my experience in basketball was the idea of losing a basketball game was utter devastation. I mean,
Right.
it rarely ever happened. So yeah, we went there and just won national championship after
Right.
national championship.
So you must have been studying because you ended up deciding to go to law school, had to have good grades. So talk me through that. When did you know you wanted to go to law school, or was it a default? Like how did you decide law school's it?
Well, let's go back for a second. When I mentioned I went to what I'd call a mediocre high school, I really wasn't pushed in high school. And I'll use as a comparison my wife and her training. When I could see that, and we met at UCLA, but we'll come back to that. But I wasn't pushed. And I was in the top of my class, just coasting. Coming to UCLA from a standpoint of intellectually performing was a shock, an
Got it.
absolute shock, because I didn't have great study habits. I hadn't pushed myself the way I could, and I had to do some catching up.
You were in for a rude awakening.
Yeah, it was a rude awakening, but I had the ability. I could see that very quickly.
Yeah.
But this idea of studying, spending time really learning something that was kind of new to me. So
Going to the library with books was
right,
actually that wasn't
the
part of the
whole
program, huh?
the whole thing was very different. So I spent probably year and a half figuring out how to become a student,
There you go.
and then I started to really do a lot better when I got a hold of that. But I met my wife in the middle of the second year of college.
Wow.
She's a consummate student, valedictorian from her high school, just a consummate student. And then there's me, and
Yeah.
and I quickly could see the difference and what I probably should be doing. And if you could see the amount of energy and work that I started to put into school, it started to blossom slowly at first, but it started to blossom after my second, third, fourth year of college.
All right. So you meet your wife. Were you guys serious in undergrad? Was you already on a track getting married by the time you were leaving undergrad and going to law
We
school?
we got married. We dated intermittently at first, and we got married in after the first semester of law school.
Okay.
So we were married young. We were like 22 years old, which was young. It was young today. It's huge, very young today, but it was young at the time. Um, and my wife was going to law school. She always planned to go to law school. And the one thing we concluded is if we were getting married, we couldn't afford figuring out how two of us were going to law school. And, that just didn't make any sense. And she graciously said that she would just quickly pick up a teaching credential and teach, generate an income, and I could go to law school, which was very, very cool, very much appreciated.
So she
So,
sacrificed law school so you could go.
yeah.
And how did you know law school? You went because she was interested in going to law school. That's
No,
how
I
you got.
probably thought I was going to want to go to business school, uh, but that nothing really drove me over the top as to one or another. And I finally decided, let's give it a shot and go to law school, and that's what I did. And
Where'd you
here's what's
go?
interesting. Uh, from my first exam at UCLA, which was like a disaster, I just was not prepared. So now I start law school, and this is like I'm going to the Super Bowl. And I've prepared for the Super Bowl all season, and I'm ready to go. The first test in law school, the scores of civil procedure, the scores range from like 65 to 70, maybe someone got a 75. And my first score was a 95.
Ooh,
That was the focus that I had now
crushed it.
put on myself intellectually when I started law school.
God,
So
you were a new man by that time.
well, I now was working hard. I am given the God-given talent to work hard, physically have the ability to work hard. And when you combine all those things and you want to do it, it makes it easier. And there's a lot of people who would do this, but physically they just can't do it. They don't have the physical strength, or this holds them back. I have all of those God-given attributes and was able to apply them and worked very, very hard.
Were you at UCLA for law school?
No, I went to Southwestern.
You went to Southwestern,
Yeah.
which is also LA.
Yeah.
And so you get through law school, and now let's talk through the end of law school and starting to figure out where you're going to go to work. How did you land at that firm that you first mentioned? Was that your first?
What I wanted to do, I wanted to be in a business setting in law. And where I saw business was either corporate, real estate, or in entertainment. So, and it wasn't like I've got to do one or got to do the other. It was one of those, but that was the kind of work I wanted to do. And as I had a smattering of involvement with litigation, I could tell you that was absolutely not what I wanted to do. I probably could have been a great litigator, but I just did not want to be in a fight constantly with somebody. That just is not fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I knew those areas, and then it was a matter of finding the right opportunity. And it was challenging. I wasn't at Harvard. I wasn't at Yale. I wasn't at Stanford. And I had to work 100 times harder than other people did to find the right job. Not just a little bit, but a lot harder, because there was just a tremendous amount of bias at that time. So you've just got to be at these top schools, and I wasn't. So
tell me, do you remember what was your starting salary out of school in 1976? You said 77.
I was probably earning $18,000, $20,000 a year.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And what would be like the entry now if you're coming out of a good law school?
I'm going to guess I'm really guessing it's well into the 100,000s or maybe into the 200,000. I mean, the numbers are just staggeringly different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Staggeringly.
All right. So now let's get back to today. So now you've built this big business. Along the way, you got married, you had family, you have kids. Now you have grandkids as well. So how did you balance life, work, family? I imagine you have some intense hours, some intense clients, and some high stakes situations, and all that stuff. Also, is the home life's intense when you have little kids and you're balancing it all. So tell me a little bit about that and how you went about that.
Okay, so we have two children, and they're twins, and they were born in 1979. We waited 8 years or so to have children. That was part of the trade-off when we agreed we were going to get married early. It became very obvious to both of us very quickly that we both wanted to really be there for our kids. And it took a couple years for us to realize that what we were doing was not special. Everyone was doing the same thing, that everyone wanted to be there for their kids. Well, this is where my ability to work hard, I'm talking about hours, and have the physical strength to do things was a huge advantage to me. I kept setting my alarm clock earlier and earlier and earlier to get up, to get work done, so that I could be free. Particularly my kids started to be 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. My daughter was very talented, and my son's a gifted athlete. And there was plenty to be able to do and see with your kids
Right.
and spending the time with them. So when they got into a groove with what they were doing, I was getting up at 4 a.m. without an alarm clock every day, 4
Wow.
a.m. And by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, I had already worked half a day.
Yeah.
And I'd feel very comfortable leaving the office at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. If there was something going on with sports, kids activities, and after dinner, I'd go back to work for a couple more hours.
Yeah.
The fortune I have is I can do that. I mean, I'm just physically very strong, so I can put those hours in and not be a wreck, not be impossible to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to have that skill.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time with my kids when they were growing up and whatever life activities they were in. My wife was doing the same thing. And it's the fortune of that is we're all very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the trade-off is, for you was getting up early and having the strength and stamina to work late hours, but in between, if important family stuff came up after school stuff, you were totally going to see your kids' stuff and then get back to work and work late and not there was no issue. So you had that. It wasn't a 9 to 5 lifestyle in any way.
No, and in fact, what I described my work, we didn't talk about this, I'll bring it up, but to build a business the way we've built the business, I considered I had two jobs. I worked at law during the day and I worked at marketing in the evening. I started teaching about a month after I started working for Art Mazaro. He went on a vacation and he said, "You're taking my class." He was teaching extension at UCLA and you're teaching my class. He didn't ask, he just said I was doing it. Well, that I do like teaching, I like speaking, and when you start teaching, even stuff if you do a good job, you got to prepare.
Yeah.
And now I'm preparing for this, working, but all of a sudden I'm starting to realize people are calling me. I'm getting clients. I've been practicing at Art's office for a year and a half, and now I'm already getting people calling me. Yeah. And I said, wow, this is a nice way to find myself and find contacts by being out there teaching classes.
So that's an interesting point that you said that you run your business in the day and at night you're marketing. So why don't you talk about that? Why if you could take us to your peak hustle years of building your business, were you going to networking events? You were teaching? Were you going out to client meals and other sort of influencer dinners? Like, what were the sort of things that you've done through your career to build your business and do marketing, etc.?
Well, so let's take, you mentioned a networking event.
Yeah.
When you understand how I was coming at this, a networking event was not good for me. Being in an event where there's 5 attorneys, 12 potential clients, and everyone's trying to tell someone in 3 minutes why you're special and they're not,
that's not your thing.
It just wasn't productive enough.
Yeah.
The teaching was, because I'd have 40, 50, 60 people in a class and they'd start to see me, but I knew I had to start elevating where I was teaching. And I worked hard to find opportunities and programs. I did a lot of teaching early on for the ICSC, the International Council of Shopping Centers.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a very prestigious shopping center organization.
Sure.
And by doing that, I was introduced to other speakers. What a surprise. People who like speaking. Yeah. And probably 25 years ago, I started connecting with a bunch of people who teach at Georgetown Law School.
Yeah.
And I was invited to go on the advisory board for Georgetown Law School about 25 years ago. And I teach continuing education, real estate law at Georgetown Law School. It entails going back there a couple times a year to do it. But the people that I teach before are real estate people from around the country that are invited to be there. Our board of some of the top real estate attorneys in the country. So these connections lead to opportunities, and it's not where you just show up and say, "Here I am. Here's my sign. I want work." No, it takes time and nurturing, and someone who you say hello to becomes a friend one day, and he needs help the next day.
Right.
But it takes a lot of follow through, a lot of attention to land these clients.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I say that a lot. That what your experience and your the way you articulated going to networking events, I feel 100% the same way. It's not my thing. I don't find it a productive thing to do to go to a big event, and I go to support friends or to support charities that I'm interested in. But that for me is not the way to go. And real networking does take years and years and building relationships, as you said. So that's the patience and the long game. I think is the key to that. It's not just, hey, here's my business card. Hire me. It's that's
I'll
really
give you an example of what I think classic marketing is. Fortunately, I had my own firm. It was very easy. If I traveled the firm paid for everything. The firm's always paid for everything, but they've done that. They support that for everybody. But it was easy when we were young. We were willing to spend money on each other for marketing.
yeah.
Well, I'm representing Unilever. I'm in New York all the time because Unilever's in New York. And I was introduced to the head of real estate for HSBC. Can't even remember the year, but I was introduced to him. Pleasant meeting. And he knows I'd love to be able to do the finance work for HSBC on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Danny, I probably visited his office 15 times. I go back to New York. My wife always travels with me. She kind of wondered, what is this? Every year you're gone for 35, 40 minutes, and you say you're going to HSBC. You go there for that short amount of time. You come back and you say you spend time marketing. All those times I mentioned, a quick trip from the hotel to HSBC to say hello to this contact, explain what we could do, keep showing up. I mean, one year this was a success. He asked me to contribute to his charity. That was a success. I didn't have any work, but he asked me to contribute to the Columbus Day Parade in New York.
Fantastic. You're giving him money. You're thrilled.
I'm giving him money. And then all of a sudden one day he says, we have a small bit of work on the West Coast. We'd like you to do it.
There you go.
And we had some great people in finance. Jill Draffin was one of them. And one thing leads to another, but it took years of just quick bursts of follow through, paying attention to nurture HSBC as a client.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is a lot of themes of persistence and stick-to-itiveness and endurance and persistence and all these themes that a thread that runs through so many successful people. And it's when you break it down, it's not brain surgery so much. It's really about doing those simple things, but those simple things are hard to do consistently, which is why most people don't do it.
That's it. Consistently. That's the right word. It's easy to do, but to do it consistently, to follow through.
It's hard to do it the way it needs to be done, year after year after year after year. So talk to me about some lessons learned now, looking back. Are there things you wish you would have done differently? Or are there lessons that you've learned through the years that you think, wow, if I was starting out as an attorney, I wish I would have known this?
Well, starting out, I wish there had been an easier way to get in front of potential clients. It is so easy for me to build a relationship when I'm in front of a lead. The hard thing is finding a lead. That's the hard thing. But, and someone says, well, you give me a lead and I'll get the work. No. What you'll get is the lead. Will you follow through? Will you do what it takes? And will you not be discouraged when it takes 4 years for that to ripen?
Yeah.
I mean, things that are so simple as learn your lead's birthday. Or if you talk to him and you hear that his mother is going in for surgery, call him 5 weeks later and just say, how's your mother?
Yeah.
You won't believe how you can build rapport with people when you care.
Yeah, care, have empathy,
You know,
come from a place of caring and love and wanting to be involved, and that's such good information. Again, seems so simple, yet it's so hard to do, right? That's why most people don't do it. Any
most people don't take the time, or you know what it is, the success and the benefit doesn't come quick enough. So why would I do it?
the instant gratification.
That's what turns people. It doesn't turn them off, but it doesn't. They don't get enough positive reinforcement quickly enough
Yeah,
to to um, to make it happen.
yeah, I
So,
hear you.
those are the things that I've learned, and I just haven't been turned off to the fact that it wasn't yes right away. It always helped that we always seemed to have plenty of work, and we were trying to build more, build a firm, grow a firm. If we could find more work, we would add attorneys to do it. But there was, I've just never had it where I wake up one day and someone says, "Oh, here's a client. This is yours."
Yeah.
Just hand it to me.
So any crazy client stories you can share? Any high profile deals? You mentioned one early in your career. Is there anything else that comes to mind that would be a fun or interesting story to tell?
Well, as we talk, I'll think of some. One of the things I always like to talk about is we find. I mean, you could go sit down and two people who are talking an attorney story, and if you could just eavesdrop, you'll typically hear, "Oh, this guy doesn't do this and he doesn't do that. He costs too much. He's taking more time than he needs to." And I've done this a couple times. I really enjoyed the reaction. I'm a member of a country club, and two of my not close friends, but friends were having that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And I walked by and sat down. I said, "You know, never have that problem with the smartest clients. But anything else, we have the problem. But those smart clients, they don't have that problem.
You
They
don't
know
have
how to use you as an attorney. They ask for work. They ask you to do stuff when they need it for you and need it done. If they don't need it, they don't ask for it. They realize if you're spending hours on something, it's going to cost money.
right,
But
right.
I always like to turn it around.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. So what are you doing for fun these days? If you're not working, you're not with clients, you're not with the family. Are you traveling? Are you playing golf? What does Bruce like to do for fun? You a wild party animal? What's going on?
Oh yeah, I'm wild.
I think you're wild undercover. You're an undercover wild man.
Well, prior, my wife and I have spent a lot of time from March through now canceling trips.
Yeah.
We've
Well,
canceled
now.
and we've canceled the trip to China, to North Africa, to Europe.
Oof.
Now we were supposed to be in Costa Rica this week. That's all we've been doing is canceling trips.
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of traveling, and I've been finding, and this wouldn't surprise you, that I can do work. I've tried to cut down the amount of work I'm doing as I've gotten older, but I can do work anywhere as
Yeah.
long as I have a computer, I have a cell phone. But then again, it's an
Wi-Fi.
attitude. I mean, I have people who work for me, and I totally respect this. If I'm on vacation, I'm on vacation. I don't want to mix the two. I
Yeah.
am able to mix the two, and I could be on a call. It could be a call that's very challenging. I hang up the phone and I get back to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm able to do that. So that's
You're able
allowed
to
us to
pivot,
travel.
compartmentalize
Right,
business. Boom. Now I'm on vacation. Boom. That's another important skill set to be able to do that.
right.
Otherwise, it bleeds into your life, and you can never be, focused on your life and your personal stuff. So that's a
Right.
really big
So
lesson.
traveling has been a part of us, and it will be as soon as it's a bit safer to do it. But in these 9 months, and I spend most of my time right here. This is my office.
This is it.
Um,
Zoom
I,
life.
pardon me?
Zoom life.
Yeah, well, it's
Zoom
Zoom,
schools.
and in front of me is every piece of equipment. That
Yeah.
has made it a lot easier. I've got a desk. I've got a desk behind me. I've got a printer. I've got a scanner. I've got 2 screens that are huge. I've got lighting that's appropriate. I've got multiple phone lines, so I can
What
do
else do you
this
need?
properly.
Yeah, you got
But
a full.
how I've spent the time, I work out with a trainer, and what I do, I think for my age, is inordinately grueling workouts, not just going through the motions. That goes right back to me and my
Yeah,
personality.
well, it shows. You look good, Bruce. You're looking lean.
Thank you. Um, just out the window to the right there is El Caballero Country Club. I live a block away from our country club. I golf. I've always golfed on Saturdays. I have now changed my schedule. I golf Wednesday mornings now. I get up early and golf, and like here's an example. Even at this point, I golfed this morning at 8 o'clock, and when I went to bed last night, I was nowhere able to leave here today and go golf at 8 o'clock and pay attention to clients. I wasn't ready. I got up this morning at 4 o'clock. I got up and when I just had to do it because I had to take care of things. I got everything taken care of, moved, so I could leave there and enjoy golf in peace.
Yeah.
But you've got to, you've got to be able to relax when you're doing something. And I know for me to relax, I can't have people uptight waiting for something from me.
Sure.
But so I'm doing that now. So I'm golfing twice a week, working out several times a week. Plus, I get a daily routine for stretching. I'm trying to convince my kids they need to do this as you get older. But a trainer sends me about 15 different stretching exercises that come in every day. And you can open each one and have someone showing you exactly how to do the stuff.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I'm trying to do that to take care of myself.
That's good. Keeps you young and strong, man. That's how you do it.
It was like that when I was younger, and I'm trying not to fade away as I get a little bit older.
Well, look, why don't you let's play around at El Cab. We'll get Jim, we'll get your son. We'll go out there and have some fun next time. Yeah, we got nothing to do right now.
Easy enough to do. You're welcome to come out whenever you want.
Well, Bruce, thank you so much for spending time with us. Anything else before we close that you want to share? Otherwise, I know you're a busy man and you gotta get to work.
No, to the extent this is distributed to someone who had a question, wanted to talk to me, wanted to understand something, I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours taking phone calls that were not billable phone calls, but just doing something where I can help give back to somebody something I may have learned along the way. And I've just been very comfortable doing that. And I welcome people, if they want to ask or understand something, to try to share something I've learned along the way.
And I can say I've been the beneficiary of some of those calls and appreciate that. So yes, you've been very helpful and very generous, and it's clear it's who you are, and your authenticity and caring is a big part of why you've been so successful. So I'm glad you were able to share that. We appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us, and let's get out to El Cab and I'll hack it up.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Bruce. Talk to you soon.
Take care, Danny.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us on The Deal with Danny Brown. Thank you, Bruce Smiley, for kicking knowledge and breaking it down. It's always fun to talk to you. Hopefully we'll get to play some golf soon at El Cab. Please find us at thedealpod.com or at thedealpod. Subscribe if you want to follow our video on YouTube, The Deal with Danny Brown on YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. And if you have any questions, you can always DM us and we'll get back to you. If you have any ideas for guests, let us know. And we have some sponsors that we're going to be announcing soon. So we'll keep you posted. We appreciate the support and I hope everyone has a good week. Take care.